I haven't put out full information yet on the BCDL Open. I want to put some stuff out there that is not public, but I'm going to make it public here.
Welcome to the Eternal Witnesses podcast, your favorite modern legacy and vintage podcast for Magic the Gathering. I'm one of your hosts, Michael Mapson. Usually doing this introduction would be my friend Dan, but Dan hates me, so he decided to go on vacation and leave me behind. He took his wife instead, which, if you ask me, is very rude. So he is away, and this week to replace him, I have a good friend of mine. We have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Robert Wilson of Buffalo Chicken Dip Legacy. How are you, Rob?
Mapson, I will never leave you behind.
I appreciate that. You know, some people are just I don't know. They just don't care about you. He went on vacation. My other friend went to Japan, and I'm just here.
Well, if you are bored, you can come help me pack up my house to move.
You know, I will consider that. I'll ponder it, brainstorm on how that might work. But I don't know if I can make that work.
Fair, fair. If you were here, I'd push you harder on that, but you know, you're not. So
If I was there, I would help. You wouldn't have to push too hard. I like to help my friends out when I can.
it's okay. We're hiring movers. So once we get our house cleaned and ready for sale, we're good. The movers will do the rest. But I just want to test your friendship here.
I like to think I'm a pretty good friend. Um, Speaking of things that are pretty good, we're gonna dive right into it because we're gonna keep this episode short. It's late. I'm tired, but I want to dive into the cards from the new set and talk a little bit about flow state. So I'm sure at this point everyone has seen flow state. Everyone's been talking about it. One in blue for a sorcery, and you look at the top three cards of your library, pick one, put it in your hand. If you have an instant or sorcery or instant and sorcery in your graveyard, you get to pick two of them and put those in your hand and then put one on the bottom. And this card is very good. It's a little bit worse if you are dumb like me and keep casting it when you don't have an instant and sorcery in your graveyard. And then when you expect to pick two cards and then you only pick one, and then Moto really heavily punishes you. But assuming you know what you're doing, this card is great. And I don't play a ton of blue decks lately, at least. But Rob, you are very much a tempo mage. So do you have thoughts on this card?
Yeah, I mean, when I first looked at this card and even playing it, it kind of calls back to Dreadhorde Arcanist in a way that, the hoop to jump through isn't really a hoop because you're playing, instants and sorceries, using it with cards like Thoughtseize. Getting that sorcery is kind of a menial hoop to jump through. Like there's not much of a real hurdle. So it doesn't really ask anything of you that you aren't already doing. And that's really kind of the difference between, Dreadhorde Arcanist, same thing. And then cards like Mercurial Spell Dancer. So I think this is obviously a fantastic card. It's, busted in half, cheap card advantage engine. And it's what we're going to kind of end up seeing. We've already started seeing it in the metagame is that the blue decks will tend to go bigger to beat each other because this will kind of turn into, how many flow states can I cast? Same way Expressive Iteration did. And then as those decks go bigger, you're going to see big mana decks like Eldrazi and Cloud Post kind of come in over the top because the tempo decks just don't go under as well anymore, especially the blue black. I mean, you'll maybe still kind of have that punch out of the blue red Delver style decks because they can, just kind of Corey Steel Cutter and try and run them down as quick as possible. But, playing a card like Flow State will slow you down, but it kind of tends to be a card advantage race to the bottom. So we'll see what happens. There's still, it's new. There's still plenty of innovation that can happen. It's a sweet card. I mean, will it be too good for the format? History tells us, yeah, but we got to give it a shot and run it through our paces. I mean, maybe things have changed, and as the power level of the format kind of seems to raise incrementally every few set releases, maybe it's okay now, but I'm skeptical.
I don't think you and I are seeing quite eye to eye on this card, which is kind of interesting. I think it's good. I should clarify. I do think the card is good. Like the card is, I've played with it. It's obviously good. I don't necessarily think it's as busted as everyone. I shouldn't say as everyone is saying. Um, but I don't know if I think it's busted. And I do think it's really interesting because I think people have had, I think there's been a lot of variance in how people are reacting to this card. And there's certainly a lot of people that say it's busted in half. I've seen some people say it's utter garbage, which those people are crazy. That's just wrong.
That's just
Uh,
wrong, yeah.
uh, I think it's like somewhere between good and broken. Um, like, it is very strong, especially when it's turned on. I do think you have to jump through some amount of hoops, and I mean, it's not that hard to have instants and sorceries in your deck, but there is a question of like, okay, what is the right balance? You know, some number of people already didn't like playing with cards like Ponder, so it's like, how many Ponders do you play? Do you play additional sorceries like preordained to make it work? I think personally, cycling Lorien Revealed has a way of making it work is very interesting, but that's not really a card you want to play in tempo strategies. And then there's also the question of like, what is the best flow state shell? Um, and I do think the fact that that is a question is like a little bit concerning because maybe that means it is too good because it's going in a bunch of places. But you know, it's not clear to me, is flow state best in a tempo deck? Is it best in a combo deck? Is it best in a control deck? Right. And I've played it now in tempo and control. And again, it's been good for me in both, but I feel like it hasn't been busted, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I think in terms of what shell, I mean, the problem with it is it's gonna go in every blue shell. It's every blue deck. I mean, maybe the problem at this point is still kind of like what happened with Miracles at some point where there was just so much air in the deck. It's like, okay, what cards do we actually use? I mean, because right now you're trying to cram Brainstorm, Ponder, Flow State, and Mishra's Bauble into decks. And then on top of Force of Will, Days, there's 20 of your 60 cards already decided right there before you even do anything else. So, once you start adding in Wasteland and your lands, I mean, the deck is kind of built and it just comes like, well, is this too much air? Like what has to go, right? To be able to do whatever else you need to do with the deck. So I think there's still that space to explore. Yeah, you know, the first one turns on like it's kind of like the accumulated knowledge mirror. It's like no one wants to play the first one. It's like you don't want to play that first flow state to turn on your other flow states. Like you'd rather just have the ponder or the thoughtseize or the chain lightning, like whatever, preordain in there and then do it just because that extra card is so valuable. I mean, I think we'll really start moving to a place where we're going to start seeing main deck pyroblast. Like history tells us that's kind of the way to go, and that's the way I'm leaning. If I were playing in a BCDL tomorrow, I'd probably look at putting at least one pyroblast in my main deck if I'm playing a blue red delver deck. But it just when you're playing a card like these decks traditionally have when you run out of card advantage, like when you run out of cards, that's kind of when you're dead in the water. But between all of these cantrips and flow state, you just never do. And that's kind of where the problem has tended to be. So I mean that's kind of what I expect. I mean, yeah, the power level has risen, and that's kind of why I say like we'll see some of these Eldrazi, cloud post style decks come over the top. Because if you're spinning your wheels, they're just gonna come try and beat you with a hammer. Kind of the way I've fought that traditionally has been, beyond just Wasteland. Like that's kind of the obvious one, but I pretty much always go after the first grim monolith I see. Like if I have a force of will, because some people, there's two schools of thought, right? The first is go after the mana producer. The second is go after the payoff. To me, it's always felt like when you played against Reanimator, you just don't let them put the the creature in the graveyard. It's the same thing with Grim Monolith. Don't let them have Grim Monolith if you can avoid it. So I don't know. We still need to kind of see some more big tournaments and see how it evolves. But it's just we're gonna see it in every deck that can play blue until it's kind of figured out or it's banned. or something else comes along. I don't know what that would be, but I hope we don't see something better than flow state.
Yeah, I I don't know. I'm still just kind of waiting to see how it plays out because I would say, a lot of the combo decks are not adapting it. Like some are, like Doomsday is playing it, but I'm seeing decks like Sneak and Show are still opting to stay with stock up, right? And I think some people have tried it out, probably others haven't. And there's probably some bit of inertia where people just aren't trying out the new thing, and then people are seeing people continue to win with holdless and trying that out. So I guess I am curious to see, does it completely end up replacing other options? And when it gets to that point, how are we fighting it? Like, you're right. If we get to a point where people are just playing main deck Pyroblast, Blast, that to me is a sign that something is wrong and we've gone too far. I don't know if we'll get to that point or not. Um, I'd be, I'm very curious to see what ends up happening. Again, I do wonder, like, like you said, how much air is too much air? Um, is flow state that? I I don't know. I'm just like I'm very all over the place with my thoughts on this card. Like it's kind of like it's very clear that it's good, but it's still just a mystery to me. How good? What shall? And I don't know. I kind of like that it exists.
Yeah. So if I'm playing an Ancient Tomb deck, I'm just gonna play stock up instead of it. You see, especially in a combo deck, because you just see more cards, and that's kind of the critical mass you need. So it makes sense to me not to play low state if you've already got stock up, because it just kind of does the same thing, only want you probably want it more. I mean, if it gets to a point where you kind of need to go down the curve, maybe, but then again, the hoop to turn it on becomes a little more real. It's like the Demir decks, you're playing 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Ponder, so it's not. Like, it's you're pretty happy to turn 1 Thoughtseize, maybe daze their follow-up, do something flow state, or force something flow state and fill back up, which is the same play pattern you have with Dreadhorde Arcanist, right? Like, do something, drop Dreadhorde, interact with whatever they play next, and then fill your hand back up. So I I can I can see that play pattern developing already. Will it be too much? I don't know. I mean, just kind of looking at some of the 5-0 dumps. I mean, you're seeing it in basically every blue deck that isn't a combo deck, and you are seeing it in some of them, like the show and tell or the show and tell decks, the Doomsday decks in particular.
Out of curiosity, do you think, and this might be a marginal thing, but do you think it's better in like the blue red decks, or do you think it's better in the blue black decks?
So, like, what's happened in the past is, like, kind of going bigger, right? So that if you're trying to go bigger to go kind of over top of the other blue decks, like flow states what you want, and kind of these, you'll go bigger with more barrel glyphs. You'll see those main deck alongside the Murktides, and then your turn 1 threat is still the Tamiyo, but you'll go down on things like Daze because you're trying to play a longer game. Like, you're just not going to close the game out. Like, when we saw expressive iteration the first time around, was you had your turn 1 Delver, Dragon's Rage Channel, or whatever, and then maybe you fill up with expressive iteration. And you're not doing that here because you're not trying to, like, gas up to blow them out. And that's kind of where the Demir tempo deck has kind of went bigger. So they're playing the Barrowglyphs, and, I'm seeing typically even up to 3 Murktides in a lot of these lists. And that makes sense when you want to play the bigger, longer game, which is what flow state lends itself to.
Yeah. I played some with both blue red and blue black. I felt like they both have their pros and cons, so I'll be curious just to see where the general populace lines up or ends up, I should say.
Yeah, I kind of want to look at let's see some of the recent challenge results. What have we got?
I think it's been a lot more Is It than it's been Demir. Um,
Let's see. 3 Tron decks. Harmony Wood's back with their Esper Control style list for Flow State, doing the good people's work. Eldrazi, yep. See, there's just what I was talking about. So the top from the 429 challenge: first Tron, second Tron, third Tron, fourth Esper Control, 5 Eldrazi, Cradle Control, seventh Tron, Oops All Spells. There's no way Oops All Spells is playing Flow State. They're not. I just wanted to check it because it just what it kind of got. Remember when it got to a point with like Oko, where like Burn was co-opting Oko? It's like we've really gone too far. Yeah, and you're kind of. I think some people will come with a reaction of flow state isn't a problem because these other decks are beating it, which is like basically kind of the same reason. Like with Tamiya, the same counter argument, like, yeah, people don't like it, but it's not winning enough. So we kind of don't care. I mean, there's a little bit of that here, but I think, the ceiling is pretty high and someone's going to figure this out. I mean, you'll probably start seeing these blue red decks just playing if Tron is going to stay popular, these, colorless decks. They'll just start playing more Price of Progress too. Like looking at IB True's list because they were the highest blue red Delver list in this. I'm not seeing uh Price of Progress, but I bet you'll see it in the next challenge, 100%.
Yeah, I think price is really good right now because, like you said, there's a lot of that Tron deck popping up. Um, And it is worth noting that deck is going to be more popular online than it is in paper because not that many people have access to 4 candelabras in paper. Um, though you can also play the deck without playing 4 candles. So it's still going to see paper play, and some sickos might have it, or maybe 4 sickos will get together and let one person use all 4 copies. They can rotate them around. It's like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, except like the the gathering of the traveling candelabras.
And I think you could, in the past, they've traditionally played it with one, and you can go find it with Urza's Saga if you need to go longer and still go over the top of them. I mean, and I don't think I know we're seeing 4 in some lists right now, but I don't think I don't think like that's a necessity to play the deck and to be successful. Yeah, now I'm curious. Are all of these lists playing 4 of it?
Probably.
I know the Eldrazi won't be. Sorry, I wanted to stop at one of the blue red lists. And I'm looking at Joe Dyer's article. Joe Dyer always doing the heavy lifting here. So we haven't seen blue red Delver putting main deck Pyroblast yet, but it's probably coming. Okay. This first place list has 4 candles. Second place list 4. Third, okay, 4. It looks like they all literally just copy and pasted the same list. Yeah, they're all pretty substantially similar. But yeah, even the seventh place list is 4 Trons. I mean, and also looking at the mana base in that deck, like I don't know how much heat is on Planar Nexus, but basically Planar Nexus turning all of the lands in your deck into soul lands might be a thing to watch.
Yeah, it's actually insane how impactful Planner Nexus has been. And, it's such like a quiet thing because for the longest time it was just like Forge, which people had a number of reasons to complain about, and Post, but like not that many people play Post. So it's like you really only see it in these colorless decks. So I think it kind of sneaks under the radar, but that card is seriously messed up. Like cheating on mana, I've said this a million times, but cheating on mana is, I think, the most powerful thing you can do in Magic, right? That's why Force of Will is good. That's why Daze is good. That's why, like, uh, Depths used to be so strong. Just like these effects that let you cheat on mana. That's why Dark Ritual is good. It's why Black Lotus is good. And Planar Nexus is just like a land that lets you do that forever.
Yeah, I mean, so the mana base for these Tron decks: 4 Ancient Tomb, 4 Planar Nexus, 2 Mines, 2 Power Plants, 4 Urza's Saga, 4 Towers, 4 Workshops, 4 Urza's Workshops. That's a lot of lands Planar Nexus turns on, and most of those are tapping for a minimum of 2. So it's something to watch, something to keep our eye on, and you know really be cognizant of. But that's also a lot of lands to get hit by Price of Progress.
Like, you don't have to sell me on Price of Progress. I am a big Price of Progress enjoyer. people always think of me as like the lands guy or the depths guy. Well, and then recently the Nadu guy. But what people probably don't know is Price of Progress Blue Red Delver is how I actually got my start in Legacy. I used to Price of Progress people all the time. And one of my favorite memories playing Legacy was actually an event where I wasn't the one casting Price of Progress, but my opponent cast Price of Progress against me, and I'm just like, okay, that resolves. And he's like, okay, so you die, and I was like, yes, but you also die, so it's a draw. And he was like, he's like, what are you talking about? And he just like didn't mark down his life total change from
Oh,
the previous turn.
I mean, sometimes you force that. I mean, I've also been in a situation where I, tap them for mana and then use wastelands to wasteland myself to not die to Price of Progress.
Yeah, I've done that a bunch. He just didn't realize his life total. That killed us both in a game where like he was going to win, and then I won game 4. It was like so brutal.
That's fun. I love Price of Progress. I'm excited to sleeve it up again.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess if you had a tournament tomorrow, you'd register Blue Red Delver then?
Yeah, probably. I want to blow people out. I want to play quick. Demir's slowing down, and it looks like these like kind of looking at these top lists. If I'm playing Demir, the colorless decks are going to go over the top of you. Eldrazi's going to run over you. It's Cradle Control is in here. They're probably going to try. They're probably going to go over the top of you. So that's kind of looking at the shift in the meta. I would look at, some kind of Is it Delver deck and really try to hit him hard, hit him fast, and reload with flow state.
Yeah, it makes sense. For me personally, I would play a strategy that is, very tried and true against these colorless decks. I would play Control, which I am joking that it has a good matchup there. It's historically very bad, but I would actually play kind of more of a controlish bent. Um, Max Gilmore just top aided the Legacy Cup at the Vegas Magicon, playing a kind of yeah. I mean, essentially, it's a Dress Guy control deck. It's very light on win conditions. He's playing 4 copies of Flow State, and I have been just like losing a ton lately. On Magic Online, I'm going to be vulnerable and just say I have been playing bad, drawing bad, and getting beat left and right. But I picked up this deck, and I don't know, everything just kind of made sense. I found myself being able to play like a smart human being again. Um, I went to sideboard, and the sideboard, like the choices just made sense. I don't know how much time he spent thinking about the sideboard, but it felt like he thought about it. So I'm really enjoying the way it lines up. I'm not that many games in, but I'm enough that I like it, and so that is what I would play. I also think going it goes just a little bit bigger. I really like having white removal um, to deal with like these Barrogoyves and threats out of the other tempo decks. Especially some people have been cutting the is it seal or the Corey seal cutters to just rely more on Delphers. And I think that makes that matchup a little bit better as well. Um, and I've been able to win my games against Eldrazi so far, so the deck is feeling good. And yeah, it's probably what I'm actually going to be taking to an event this weekend. So we'll see if how that goes and see if I continue remembering how to win.
I believe in you. That just you know, pack those consigned to memories too.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it's so hard to leave home without that card at this point in time. Like we said, Planar Nexus is just so good. Um, I do want to talk a little bit about some exciting announcements we've had this week, but before we do that, I also just want to touch one more thing on these colorless decks, but not the big Tron ones, specifically Eldrazi. Um, I don't know if you've seen this, but the Eldrazi decks have started dropping Wastelands and playing Petrified Hamlet, which, I was curious to see if this was a thing that was going to happen or not. So, Petrified Hamlet is a land from the new set.
I can read it since it's new. Petrified Hamlet. When this land enters, choose a land card name. Activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cannot be activated unless they're mana abilities, and it taps for a colorless. So you name Wasteland.
Yes. It's funny because when this card got spoiled, Mark told me, he was like, "Yeah, this is gonna be great in Eldrazi." I don't remember if it was him or someone else, but I was like, "Is it though? Because like, what would you name? Because like, you play your own Wastelands." And he's like, "You just cut Wasteland and play it." I was like, "Do you?" And he was like, "Yeah, you just want the mana." And it turns out that was spot on. I have seen this card getting played a lot. There's a very funny picture of a very prominent legacy player getting kind of screwed by their opponent just going turn one petrified Hamlet on the play and naming Prismatic Vista and stranding their only mana sources in their hand, essentially. Um, yeah, but the card is really good. It's interesting that it's a trigger, so you can respond to it. So definitely don't let yourself get got by it. Like if somebody plays it, don't let them just automatically name Scalding Tarn or whatever. Like crack your fetches. There is a window, and I guess realistically, they can also miss it. Um, Even if like what they're gonna name, they technically can miss it. So like I don't know, do with that information what you will. But I am curious how this ends up affecting that deck's matchup spread over time, right? Because Wasteland is a card that is really good against them, and not being able to like Wasteland their Cavern of Souls is really strong for them, and not being able to not being able to wasteland their soul lands is also really good for them. And so I hadn't really thought about it, but I do think wasteland was hurting them a lot more than it was helping them. Uh, any any thoughts?
Yeah, I think stopping them from slowing you down is more important than whatever advantage you gain out of Wasteland. So just protecting, like, right, because they're trading one mana source to take out two of yours and to really slow down, like you're losing a soul land. So you're theoretically losing two mana. But yeah, I think Mark's spot on there. And, Petrified Hamlet just stopping Wasteland. Like, I don't really care if I don't have Wasteland, if I'm just trying to run you over with Eldrazi Linebreaker. Like, who cares? And that's kind of the plan here. I love Eldrazi Linebreaker. I love that they're playing that card and can really
The card's
just
a beating.
yeah, it just clocks so quickly.
I never would have taken you as an Eldrazi enjoyer.
Yeah, if I were, someone put a gun to my head and made me play Modern tomorrow, I'd probably just consider that. I don't really play Modern much anymore, enough to play a blue deck, but I can put Eldrazi into play and turn him sideways, and it's a pretty effective strategy still.
Yeah, it's effective in modern. It's effective in legacy. Uh, can be effective in vintage. Also, I guess we should touch on. We talked about flow state a lot in legacy. Um, Card is like basically non-existent in modern outside of like the blue black frog decks, which I still question if people should be playing, but it has been tearing it up in vintage, is my understanding. So if anybody is prepping for the NYSC, definitely take a look at these flow state decks. I know Justin Ganari has been streaming a bunch with it. Um, I'm not going to NYSE, so I haven't been paying that much attention, but I do have a vintage event coming up this summer that I will be prepping for. And I know I will be looking at some flow state decks for sure. Um, he actually just posted 5.0 earlier today with like an Esper Tinker deck with four flow states that looked pretty nice.
Yeah, Justin, again, being the go-to for, uh, all things vintage. Let's see, is Flow State in the Doomsday deck for
Yes.
I would expect it in vintage, but I just haven't looked. I mean, if I'm going to NYSE or for Eternal Weekend, I'm probably gonna start with, Blue Black Luris and kinda go from there. For a couple of events here in Texas, I played the, Jeskai PO deck, like Thundertrap Trainer and stuff, just to, like, I wanted to try something other than Frog. I'm going back to Frog. I just can't leave, the blue black control decks alone. It's just my style.
I know that's like been one of the most winning decks for basically forever. I cannot win with the blue black frog decks, but PO, that is my go-to. It just clicks with me in a way that like no other vintage deck ever has. And I if I if I could play that deck in that format forever, I'll be happy. It's the most fun I've had playing vintage. It's the most winning I've done playing vintage. And it just, I don't know, it makes so much sense. And also, you get to play with your power so much more than everyone else. You get to touch the cards so many times. And that's cool.
I like even here in some of the Texas events, like their full proxy, but I kind of still take my real power just because it just feels special to use it and sleeve it up. So I don't know. It just like anytime I sit down and play vintage, it just feels like an event, like something special. There's just some kind of mystique aura about playing with these cards, proxy or not, that I just love the feeling of it. And vintage is such a good place. It's such a diverse meta game. It's really kind of a rock, paper, scissors you see. And even for being online and a small pool of players, it really does move like in a cyclical way that is pretty healthy.
Yeah. And I got to say, over time, I think, a lot of people have always loved vintage, but for me, over time, that format has kind of just gotten better. Like I feel like if I went back a couple years, I remember rating my order of the formats as being like modern and legacy usually alternated to me for me with like maybe modern leading by like a tiny bit, but like modern was my favorite, followed very closely by legacy. And then it was like Pioneer, or then it was like standard Pioneer Vintage, and now it's like Legacy Vintage as number 2. It's like risen from like 5th place to like number 2. It's like Legacy, Vintage, Modern, Standard, anything that's not Pioneer, Pioneer.
Like, using Lorraine Revealed in vintage to turn on flow state, like it's so easy there because you're playing it anyway. Like you want that card, so it's not like again, it's like it doesn't ask you to do anything more than you're doing already, and that's kind of what's so good about the card.
Yeah. So we've talked a little bit about legacy. We've talked a little bit about vintage, and there are very few events each year where people get to play both of those. And often crowned as the pinnacle is Eternal Weekend, and we did just have this exciting announcement. Um, some people might have found it less exciting than others. But we did have an announcement about Eternal Weekend 2026. So all 3 dates have been announced, which is kind of nice because I feel like this is a lot earlier than we've gotten some other years. So I definitely appreciate that. There is some awkwardness though. So the European and Japanese Eternal Weekends, I know they overlap with each other. I can't remember what the date is, but they do overlap. So that's a little bit awkward. The Italian one is being run by Four Seasons yet again, which from all accounts I heard, they ran an amazing event last year. So I think that's great news for the European Magic players. I mean, Four Seasons has been kind of a pillar of that community for so long. So, as somebody who hasn't been to one of their events, even I think it's just really cool that it started off as like a labor of love, and those guys are able to run Eternal Weekend and apparently just put on an amazing show. The
Yeah.
Japan
Oh,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. Yeah, I'll read out the dates just, if anyone hasn't seen the announcement. So the US Eternal Weekend is in Pittsburgh, hosted by Pastimes, October 29th through November 1st, December 3rd through 6th in Lucca, Italy by Four Seasons, as you said. And then December 5th through 6th in Tokyo, hosted by Hararuya. So yeah, that's the overlap you were talking about. Also odd that the Japanese Eternal Weekend is only 2 days.
It's been that way for ages, and people complain about it every year, and it doesn't change. And the last few years, it's just been attached to an RC, which like the RCs are big events for someone like me, but a lot of Eternal players don't care about the RC. So I think they're like, oh, it's fine to have them overlap. But, you know, I'm not the only person who plays all the formats, right? So like you are now taking people and this one event that's supposed to celebrate the eternal community, it's like people have to choose between do I care about the Pro Tour or do I care about enjoying these formats? And I it's a shame because I really think, they're kind of dividing their own player base and what's already like a smaller portion of the community. And only by only having 2 days and not even making it the main event, like they're really just not giving what feels like the proper amount of respect to what's supposed to be the celebration of the eternal community. So it's been disappointing and it continues to be disappointing.
And that's also my beef with the US Eternal Weekend. I immediately saw that, and the first thing I was like, "Why are we seriously back to this?" Oh, and for anyone that didn't kind of pick up on what I'm talking about, it's over Halloween weekend. And you might think, "Well, Halloween, like, who cares? It's not really that big of a holiday." It's really not about me as an adult per se, like, trying to enjoy Halloween. It's about parents like myself and, a lot of the legacy player, Eternal Magic player base that have families and kids and, want to be there with their kids trick or treating. And we have complained about this for years when they've done this in the past. The two things we kind of wanted more than anything, give us a minimum 3 months. They did that fantastically. They did it last year. They've been really great about that. I appreciate that. But having it on a holiday weekend again after we've been through this for years is Eh, it's so aggravating, and then, a lot of people won't be able to go. Like, I've talked to quite a few people that, have said they can't go or, it's not about the fact that it's Halloween per se, but it's a family holiday where, you're doing stuff with your kids, you're making memories with your kids, and to put it on, a holiday again, it's just such a fucking joke. I'm so tired of having to go through and talk about this. I mean, from their perspective, like as a TO, I can tell you, I know exactly why they did it. It's because the event hall is cheap. It was an open space because no one else wants that date, and it's cheap. So that's why they did it. I mean, it was purely a money cost saving, it's available thing. And to me, that's trash. That's trash. I mean, I think people would be glad to pay a little more money to actually be able to attend, and you're gonna get more people. So that's gonna, bring down the cost of it. I mean, if people don't show up, then they point to it and, "Well, attendance was down, people weren't interested." Like, no, that's not it. That's it's just shooting themselves in the foot, and I think why I'm so angry about this is I've actually talked to WotC staff about this in the past. It's like, "Hey, guys, like, why are we doing this? Like, this isn't hard. Like, I literally do this. It's not I just can't get it." And the response I got was, "Well, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to have Eternal Weekend." Like, I should be grateful. Like, you know what? I'll go do it myself. And I'm someone that, I think I have the ability and means to do it and the connections to make it happen if I really ever had to. God, I hope I never have to. I hope I really never have to eat these words. But it just, there's better ways to do it. I mean, if you have to move it out of Pittsburgh to find a weekend that works, I think a lot of people would be okay with that. Whether it's, if we want to keep it in the Midwest, it used to be in Columbus. It's been in Philadelphia. Like, there's precedent beyond Pittsburgh. So, it's disappointing, that there will be a lot of people missing out on it. I mean, I don't know what, because for anyone that doesn't know, the TOs submit bids, and then WotC selects them kind of based on some criteria they ask for, like in the RFP, the request for proposal. I don't know what Pastimes put in theirs to beat Card Titan, but I can tell you I immediately saw Pastimes and was not thrilled about it, given some of the prior Pastimes events I've been to, whether it's and someone asked on Twitter, like, "Why are you unhappy with Pastimes?" And it's I can't remember what event I went to, but they were giving out, like, prizing and, like, standard packs or something. I don't want that. Like, if you show up to Eternal Weekend and your prize haul has a bunch of Secrets of Strixhaven, like, your tickets are worthless. Like, I don't care. Like, Card Titan has done some great things in the past, like having a like, one of their cases that you can get cards out of. Some Eternal cards, they've had some Eternal packs. Like, I'm really hoping Pastimes, surprises me and puts on, kind of does the little things. Like, yeah, they run an event fine. Like, they have good judging staff. I know, I think Meg, if you like any of the longtime players probably know who she is. She does a great job. Like, they're it's gonna be a smooth event, but it's just kinda some of these other things that they could do that in the past I haven't seen them put the effort into, and like I said, I hope I'm wrong, but, I'm still gonna try and attend. I think the first thing I did after I saw this was, "Oh, man, when is, Halloween night, Beggars Night, trick or treat in Columbus. So that's what I did. It's like, crap. If I could at least go to that, I can skip the rest of the events for the weekend because it's never one night. Like one people without kids don't kind of understand this. Like a holiday isn't one night. It's an entire weekend because there's always, the big night and then there's parties and then there's school things that come along with this. So it's not just one evening. It's if I can at least make it to the big night, that's kind of the bare minimum I can get away with doing and still be able to attend. So, again, speaking on behalf of all of the frustrated Magic dads, moms, parents out there, it's just not necessary. I'm sorry. Sorry to rant here, but I I just had to for everyone.
No, it's okay. So I mean, historically, I'm usually pretty positive on this, but I definitely understand a lot of frustration from a lot of people. I also want to point out, like you mentioned, they could change the location from Pittsburgh. As somebody who is like, it's pretty convenient for me to get to Pittsburgh, because I live in the same state. Our state is huge, so it is a drive, but like realistically, it being in Pittsburgh is great for me because I don't have to worry about a plane ticket. I can leave Sunday night and go to work Monday. Like I could play all day Sunday and go to work Monday if I want. So like it's it's really convenient for me. That being said, I'm totally fine with them moving it, right? Like it's been in Pittsburgh so many years. There's only It's a little silly for me to say there's only so much to do in Pittsburgh because I honestly have not gone and experienced most of it, considering how many times I've been to Pittsburgh. But there is only so much you can do, and I know what some people do is like they take their family to these, and it's like, okay, my family's going to the Andy Warhol Museum. Okay, they're going to the aviary, and they're going to this other thing, but it's like, okay, my family's back for the fifth year. They're gonna go do the same things. So I do think it would be reasonable to switch it up. As much as I would hate it if it went over to the West Coast, like, there are people over there who play Legacy. So it wouldn't be the end of the world to give it to those guys as well and kind of move it around. I mean, please don't do that because I'm biased and I like it being here, but also they should probably move it around. And yeah, it being on the holidays is annoying, and it's not like we've had Eternal Weekend on Halloween before, and the attendance was bad, and people complained, and Car Titan was like, "We hear you. We won't do that again." And now, look, it's not Car Titan, and it's immediately on Halloween again. And maybe if it was Car Titan, it might still be on Halloween. Who knows what happened behind the scenes? But it is really unfortunate it happened. And it's not even like it's been that well, I guess it has been a while, but I think what was that? Maybe 2019 we had GP Seattle that was over Easter and it was a similar thing where people couldn't attend because it was like, "Hey, your core demographic is like 30s, 40-year-old people who have kids and we like not me, I don't have kids, so it doesn't really affect me, but kids need to be with their families for Easter and so I can't be at this GP, right?" And I think we've had events over like Mother's Day, and people are like, "Hey, I love my mom. I'm going to spend the day with her." Um, Again, I get off easy because my mom lives 9 hours away. But these are like real things, and I understand there's never going to be a perfect weekend that's great for everyone. But it would be nice if we didn't immediately make it difficult for like 30-40% of people when it was like easily predictable. I do know a lot of people have had issues with pastimes events. What I will say is I know a good number of the staff there. They're wonderful people. So, I hope if they hear anything I say, that they don't take anything personally. Um, but they have had that history of complaints. And I think the point you made about them not paying out, and the price support that we want is like a really big point, right? Like I kind of understand at this point, these events largely aren't going to pay out in cash, but hopefully it's still things we want. And I haven't talked about it that much publicly, but I think among my friends, I have actually been more critical of Card Titan's Eternal Weekends than a lot of other people. And I know Nick Haas and I get along with him, and I am friends with like multiple of the people that work for him. And, they have my respect. So it's like nothing bad against them, but I've never found everything to be perfect. But what I have found is that they're pretty receptive to feedback, and
Mm,
they take things and, they try to change them to improve them. Like they do try to make the event a great event. They care so much. Something that I don't think gets talked about is like Cost gets sick after the event every year just because of like the sheer amount of stress on him. And so there's like a lot of care that's gone in. And there's also a lot of relationships that have been formed. And I do wonder stuff like, the artist and vendors may just want to be there because it's the event, but also like I know some of them come because Nick Koss runs the event and he's been running it for years and has, treated them well and been friends with them. So I do wonder like, hey, are we going to get that same kind of thing? If Pastimes doesn't have those same connections. It's worth noting Pastimes runs the MagicCons that happen. So, the feedback from those has been largely great. It started off with one thing. I think the second one was like a bit of a dip, but like I think every MagicCon I hear people saying that they're getting better and better. So that is a great sign. But I'll be honest, I went to a MagicCon and I had fun, and that's not what I want at my Eternal Weekend. It is just like a different feel. Like it was a good feeling. I would absolutely do that again. But they are two different feelings. It's like I really like chocolate chip cookies and I really like snickerdoodles, but those are two different things, and I want them to be different things. So hopefully it doesn't feel like a MagicCon. I hope it does feel like an Eternal Weekend. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. I also honestly don't think I can get off work that weekend. So I think I'm unfortunately likely to be among the people screwed out of going, which is also really frustrating because I'm being screwed out of going to one of the cycles of RCs this year. I'm just like
mm.
really not able to attend Magic events.
Yeah, I mean, I'm willing to, reserve judgment on, pastimes for this. The last Pastimes event I went to was the original, Magic Con, and that was probably one of the most piss poor, horribly ran events from a ticketed events, organized play standpoint that I've ever seen. And to be fair, from what I understand, has gotten significantly better. I just haven't been back to a Magic Con then. Like, the other stuff that happened at Magic Con was great. I'm rooting for Pastimes in this. I hope it's great. I hope they're as receptive to feedback and as nimble and able to implement feedback as Card Titan was. I mean, if there is any way I can help, if anyone from Pastimes is listening to this and wants my input, feedback, or help, feel free to reach out. I do want to like point out one more thing that I don't know how much truth there is to this, but from what I understand, I think Watsy was behind the date, not Pastimes. I don't know who decided on that date, but whether it was Watsy or Pastimes, it's trash. Don't do it again. Please stop it. I mean, if you, I know it's like, well, it's hard to put a weekend between, the end of the year and all the holidays come up. Like, okay, why don't we do this in August, September? We don't have to have it October, November, December. Like we can find it. We do it during summer. I just think we can think of better solutions than just running it on holidays. I mean, also another note that Seattle Legacy GP was also the last GP for Legacy, and we just never knew it. It's the sand lot. One day you go out and play with your friends, and it's the last day, and no one ever knew. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I'm hoping to be there. I know. I'm sure it will be a great time. Positive vibes here, but just cautiously optimistic, like you said.
But we don't have any control over EW. I think we certainly both hope for the best, both for pastimes. Again, the people who work for them, I think we both know some of them personally. They
Mhm.
are truly great, truly caring people. Like, I'm not just saying that to like cover up for like us being a little bit negative. Like, they are truly, truly great people who I am very fortunate to know. Um, so wishing the best for them. But again, we can't control that event. I can't control any events, but Rob, you do control an event. Can we talk a little bit about what is actually my favorite event of the year? And I'm not saying that just to gas you up, but the Buffalo Chicken Dip Legacy Open.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Somehow BCTL Open Weekend has become the second biggest Eternal event in the US behind and I mean, I don't mean like attendance wise, like sheer numbers wise, but I think in terms of hype and vibes, I haven't put out full information yet on the BCDL Open. I have a lot of it done, but there's still a few things we're working on. But I do want to tease some stuff. I want to put some stuff out there that is not public, but I'm going to make it public here just to because I need to get this stuff out now that we know Eternal Weekend. This will actually be a great tune-up. So the first question is, when's it going to be? Well, I'll tell you. The date for the Legacy Open, Saturday, August 22nd, is what we've got. And then the biggest feedback we got over the years was make it a 2-day event. So like last year, we're doing it again. So we're going to do Saturday, August 22nd and Sunday, August 23rd. It'll be in Columbus, Ohio. Where it will be is still one of the things I'm working on, but I also want to tell you a little bit about the events. What are we doing? So Saturday will be the same. It'll kind of be the traditional large scale open 100. We've expanded. I mean, last year I think Warpgate capped us at 90 people, and I think I still had 30 some on the wait list. So I told him, what I want to do is I want to try and go up to 120, 128 player cap, not to go into 8-round territory, but usually 120 number keeps you in the 7 rounds of Swiss. So that's what we're going to do. First prize for the Legacy Open will be an unlimited Mox Ruby. So if you haven't seen me post that, I think I've already posted a picture of it just kind of as a teaser. So the winner will walk away with an unlimited Mox Ruby. Other prizing, I'm still figuring out, partly because the market has fluctuated quite a bit on reserve list staples in the past 2 months. So still nailing that down. It'll be great. There will be a ton of duels. Last year, I think the Open itself ended up being like a 90 player 7 or 8K, like something insane like that. Sunday, we're going to try something a little different. Last year, we just basically ran back the same event with, lower entry and lower prize pool. We'll try something a little different this year. Sunday morning, we're going to start off probably a 64 player legacy cap, kind of like a smaller typical BCDL. And then we're going to run a second event, a few hours later on Sunday. But instead of legacy, we're going to have pre-modern. So we are going to see BCDL pre-modern. People have been asking me for it for a while, and I was torn between doing vintage and pre-modern. Like, from my heart personally, I would rather play vintage. But I think the people have kind of spoken, and the attendance for events has really spoken, and that I will easily sell every pre-modern seat for the Sunday event without effort. And that's kind of one of those things, like when you're organizing event, you need to get people on seats, and having that financial security and that risk. I mean, like you talk about, like how stressful it is for costs. It is, like, even at a smaller scale, like, I'm doing. Um, so pre-modern is great. It's a lot of fun. I think it'll be a good, second event on Sunday. That's fun. People can just, if you want to spike, you got the legacy event. You can run back legacy. And I'm going to try and start it a couple hours later. So if you go 0-2, or just for some reason, you're just not feeling legacy, you can try and jump in. Although I fully expect Sunday pre-modern to sell out before either of the Saturday or Sunday legacy events just because the demand is so high for pre-modern right now.
Mm. Personally, I'm not a pre-modern enjoyer, but I I know Romario listens, Romario from the Legacy Small Talk podcast, and I'm thinking you just made his day.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him because I didn't pick a holiday weekend to run an event. So Romario, you have no excuse. I love pre-modern too. It's kind of, that other format I play behind vintage. So, getting to play it and it's fun. Columbus has a pretty big pre-modern community. Um, they do monthlies that get like 50 people, and then the Columbus Retromancers, they're the pre-modern group, recently had a 90 player event that sold out rather quick. And then I think everyone's kind of heard about LobsterCon selling out in 90 seconds for 320 spots, something insane. I mean, that's so, um, yeah, I think we'll give it a try. And I know some people will be disappointed, we're not doing vintage. Stay tuned. I'm still trying to do something for vintage. I don't know when that will be, but personally, I love vintage. And, one of the benefits, I think really the only benefit I get out of BCDL is having an event to play in myself. So I want to play vintage. You know, it may make sense to run it somewhere like Texas for vintage. And the reason being is, I've gotten to play a lot of vintage here living in Texas the past 2 years. There are pretty big vintage communities in Houston and Austin. So, that may make sense. We'll see. I mean, Houston is also an easy place to fly into. So it kind of makes sense on that regard on some level. Same thing with Austin. So if you're disappointed to hear that, pre-modern was the choice instead of vintage, don't fret. I see you. We're still cooking. So
Okay, yeah. Oh, again, I highly recommend people check out the events. If you've never been, it's a lot of fun. If anybody's watching on YouTube, behind me, behind my right shoulder, you might see a little golden chicken. Maybe you too can win a trophy just like that. But yeah, the events are super fun. For me, it hits the sweet spot. I described it to my friend where it's like, it's casual enough where you have fun, but serious enough where people are trying. And I kind of likened it to like, what if F&M was just like a 5K where like everybody's cares, but also everybody's friends and nobody's like mad when they lose. They're just like happy for the other person and, just like celebrating with the homies. And, maybe my perception's a little bit biased because I know a lot of the people that go, but I think it's a pretty welcoming group. And even if you don't know people going into it, by the end of it, maybe you too will have some new friends.
yeah, and it feels like a reunion every year. Like same thing with Eternal Weekend. Like you see a lot of the same people, and it's just picking up where you left off with your friends. And if for any reason at all you are having a bad time at BCDL, just go into the parking lot and find Jim Monolith and the Legacy of the North crew, and he'll just hand you a beer and just laugh with you. And those guys are a riot, man. They are a lot of fun. They always make the trip. I always appreciate it, and they will they will show you a good time. If you're not having a good time, they will make sure you're having a good time. So and yeah, it's like you said, it's just immaculate vibes all around. And I think the community is really what's made BCDL last as long as it has.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. I promised a short episode and then we talked for like the normal length of time. And we started what is at a time that's not late for most people, but I'm an old man who goes to sleep early. So I'm like 2 hours past my bedtime. So I think we're going to call it a wrap here. Obviously, we have plugged BCDL. Anything else you want to say before we sign off, though?
Yeah, I'm still working on getting information up online for that and sign up. So hold off on that. But I at least wanted to give people kind of a save the date so they can start kind of making plans, logistics. It'll be in Columbus. It'll be, it won't be downtown, but if you stay downtown, you won't be too far from the venue, whichever one it is. We're still working on that, getting it up. Pricing will be great. It always is. Pretty much everything goes back into it. So, yeah, looking forward to seeing everyone, and I appreciate you letting me come on and talk with you and kind of, just hang out. It's good to catch up.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on honestly very short notice. I was I had the idea I was gonna ask you on and then just, like, kept not doing it. And then I was like, "Oh, wait, that's tonight," and I still haven't talked to him about it. So again, really appreciate you coming on short notice. Um, for the people at home, if you for some reason don't follow Rob on Twitter or Blue Sky, we'll also definitely give updates on here when everything is up. If anybody wants to follow the show online, you can find us at actually I don't know what the show's Blue Sky is, but you can follow me on Twitter and Blue Sky at Expedition Map. I think we're at Eternal Witnesses. Definitely, if you are interested in getting started on Magic Online so that you can practice for these events coming up, use our Mana Traders subscription code, Eternal Witnesses, one word, hard to forget. Rob, if people want to find you, where can they find you?
Yeah, the best place to find me or kinda keep up on, events for BCDL is at BCD Legacy on Twitter. Same for Blue Sky, Buffalo Chicken Dip Legacy on Facebook. Individually, if you wanna hear me rant about law and politics, Robert_H_Wilson at, on Twitter. If you don't like left-leaning political rants, you will probably not wanna follow my personal account, so be forewarned.
Okay. And with that, thank you again for coming on. And listeners, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Take care, everyone.